Good afternoon, musicians of YouTube. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. There's some thunder rolling, the occasional lightning strike. It's a nice rainy day here in Austin, Texas. We kind of like it when we get rain down here. So anyway, if you hear something like that in the background of my audio, that's what that is. Hopefully it doesn't mess it up too much. Anyway, today we're going to talk about vocabulary, and specifically the inspiration for where we get our vocabulary from. Because as improvisers, we spend a lot of time building our vocabulary. We try to cultivate a broad catalog of phrases, riffs, licks, patterns, cells, and motives that we draw from, and that end up forming the basis of our improvisational statements, or at least serve as a starting place. So one thing that we should do is spend a lot of time transcribing, also known as just learning solos note for note by ear. So we do this with the work of the masters who've come before us, to learn the language and dialects of jazz, blues, soul, funk, pop, rock, whatever you're into. We learn entire solos or pieces of solos by ear so that we can glean the subtle nuances of phrasing, articulation, tone, how to pace a solo, and maybe what notes we want to use over certain chords, and so forth. We might also extract licks from them and play them in different keys to develop our ears and gain facility. Licks such as Yeah, that's a good one. Thank you to Sonny Stitt for that one. I got that from a Sonny Stitt solo. It's a rhythm changes lick. Put that one in all 12 keys and pretty soon you'll have some nice bebop phrasing under your fingers. So anyway, we get the language and tradition of jazz into our blood by doing that. The whole emulate, assimilate, and innovate process is really crucial to becoming a competent improviser. And maybe another source of inspiration for vocabulary might be learning scales and patterns. Some that are perhaps more theoretical or formulaic, but not necessarily in a bad way. A lot of great improvisers of the past studied patterns and scales and permutations extensively. John Coltrane would be just one example. So these great players didn't only transcribe and learn tunes. And at the very least, learning patterns can increase our facility and technique and may lead us to discovering some really cool melodies or licks of our own to experiment with. Here's an example of a really nice diatonic pattern. It's the Chord-Scale Pattern. So in a major key, I'm going to go up the tonic major 7th chord, come down the scale, then up the 2 minor 7th chord, down the scale, and so forth. So when I get to the top of my range, I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to go down the diatonic 7th chord, up the scale, down the chord, up the scale. So that's a really good one to do in all 12 major, harmonic minor, melodic minor keys, or whatever mode you like. So we have those two ways of building a vocabulary, transcribing the masters and learning patterns. But I also find it really inspiring, interesting, and just plain fun to draw inspiration from unexpected sources, or perhaps styles a little bit more distant from jazz. For example, I was studying the score to RAVEL's Daphnis and Chloe, Suite Number 2, the other day, and it opens with this really beautiful, mysterious, hazy, hypnotic sort of flute texture. And it's played so quietly and so fast that it sounds more like a nebulous texture than it does a melody, like this. Well, something about that really caught my ear. So I decided to slow it down and play it with jazz phrasing just to hear what it sounded like. I put it through some different keys as well. So in scale degrees, if you're thinking Mixolydian mode, it's 971, 573, 593, 571. I tried to group it in triplets there, but actually just ended up sounding like some kind of really long phone number. Anyway. And I found that it actually lays pretty well on the horn. And it sounds really nice over dominant seventh chords and blues progressions. And plus, it's just fun to play around with, especially if you phrase it with some swing or some triplet feel. I've also been playing around with this other little shape that I actually derived from a Tom Petty song. The song is called It's Good to Be King from the Wildflowers album. It's a killer album. Check it out if you haven't. But anyway, there's this extended instrumental outro where the piano keeps repeating this line. Again, something about it caught my ear. I thought it sounded really pretty, so I decided to hear what it sounded like on my sax. It is pretty, but it's kind of basic. So I thought, let's expand it a little bit, fill out the mode some more with that shape. So I came up with this line in the Dorian mode. It's scale degrees 2, 3, 7, 4, 5, 9, 6, 7, 11. A pretty nice little shape to move around and improvise with in modal contexts. Or who knows, maybe even a major 2/5 progression. Wherever you can fit it, really. And that's the great thing about jazz, is that if you can make it swing or deliver the melodic information with the right rhythm and articulation, jazz can absorb almost anything, or almost anything can be jazz. So in conclusion, this demonstration has been my roundabout sort of way of saying inspiration or source material for vocabulary can come from anywhere. Any style, any sound, any source, any group of notes you hear, whether it's Maurice Ravel, Tom Petty, Joni Mitchell, J.S. Bach, or the birds outside your window singing a song that you like. So don't ever let anybody tell you that something you're inspired by isn't worth practicing. In truth, drawing inspiration from unconventional sources could very well be the thing that sets you apart from other improvisers and makes you unique. Because if it catches your ear and resonates in your soul, there's probably something to it that's worth exploring. There's a really vast world of sound out there, so don't be afraid to explore any motive, melody, or pattern that you like and try to make it your own. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Please subscribe for more, and I'll see you later.